There's almost no darker depths of hell than sexual abuses of various kinds. That kind of abuse can really mess a person up. And if you've been abused, I hope you're not watching going, oh, I knew it, now I'm messed up. No, it's all meant to heal. Ultimately, it doesn't exist in God. Therefore, we'll all wake up from this horrible dream of the things we have done to each other and had done to us. So this is not who you are, who we are. It's the made up bullshit version of being a human being. It's not the real potential version. It's the BS. It's not God's will, therefore, why do it? But we have done it. Now what we need to do is heal as best we can from it. One way to do that is bring God into every thought, memory, and even cellular levels of healing. Bring God in, bring God in, bring God in. Never forget that. And if you don't know what that means, God, call the Divine Mother in. Just call the Holy Spirit, which I call the Divine Mother, or the Divine Mother, which I call the Holy Spirit. Call the Divine Mother in. Say, Divine Mother, Mother aspect of God. Here I am, come to me. This is what seems to have happened to me. I don't need to know all the reasons. I don't know all the reasons why or how, and I don't need to know. I only know that I'm bringing it to the altar today because it hurts me, it has hurt me, it's affected my life, and here I am. In your own words, in your own humble way, here I am. And sit and wait and just do your best to visualize your heart and your being opening up as though grace comes pouring in to give you something that you didn't receive in the old days. I'm really, really sorry about the wounds that have happened. I've seen it affect family members of mine, my children here and there, and ex-partner, that sort of thing. I've seen how it affects people and ruins them, ruins their brain, ruins their learning abilities, ruins their ability to communicate. They learn to live with secrets. They learn to perpetuate keeping secrets. It's just a weird life. It's almost like it's living in a dark dimension in some ways. Now, I'm not outing people of dark, saying it's a dark experience only, because certainly I have, and most everybody on the planet has had some amount of wounding or shaming around the topic. It doesn't mean we all live literally in some dark hell, but the more abuse we had and the more it has affected us, the more it will feel that way. So the question, as was once asked, if not us, then who will help this? And if not now, then when are we going to get the help? So those are important questions. If not us, then who? And if not now, then when? So I want to thank the folks publicly that have reached out and said, hey, thank you. That was fantastic. Those of you sometimes who said, would you be willing to, how about one more workshop or just one more time? No, I don't see that right now, but I can feel something happening. So all of a sudden, I go, oh my gosh, I'm going to make a special trip that nobody really knows about yet to California, because that's where we filmed in Malibu, California, outside of LA, Los Angeles. We filmed a lot of hours, I don't remember, dozens and dozens of hours of film about sexual healing and sexual also enhancement, the healing part and the enhancement part. So we filmed a lot around this, and I was glad to be part of the project. But the project got derailed in different ways. Different producers, different promoters, different people had different ideas of kind of what to do with it. So it kind of like fingers, they went bing, all these different directions. And so there's a piece of the movie here and a piece there in different forms. Some have been preserved on the internet as lessons that somebody puts out there. Not just me, but other teachers that were involved. There were a half dozen or so of us teachers that mainly did the film. It was supposed to be an actual film documentary film. And it did end up that. But again, an hour out of dozens of hours of footage. So that's another one of those branches, and it's wonderful. They did a great job with the film. But I found out, it kind of came to me intuitively. Why don't I ask for the footage that I did, since it's 50 different directions now? Why don't I just ask? And it turns out, I guess contractually, I'm entitled to it. So it's gonna take a lot. I spent all day 1 full day plus some other hours, just looking at the topics that were filmed that I did. And I've edited them into 2 videos. It'll be a minimum of 2 different discs or videos. One will be all around the topic and interviews with people to show counseling and all the things about learning to access stuff and then talk about it, release it. But then there's a second video, which is more the interactive workshop-like video. So you have all these couples that I worked with, more than any of the other teachers they brought into the project. And we're going to be able to show you what happened with them when I worked with them. So that's kind of cool, but that's part of what I'm describing. I'm saying, wow, the topic is coming back, not to take me back to teaching again, but to bring it to the world in a new form. It's going to be quite expensive. If any of you feel compelled or inspired to send donations at all, or specifically for that project, you can put that on your, if it's on a check memo, or you can just, let us know that you're sending it for that, or credit carding it for that. I'm not here to ask for money for that. I'm just mentioning that, it's going to be a lot of money. And somehow this month, I'm going to try to set aside the funds, head for California in a couple of weeks, do the footage, the filming, the editing with the professional editors in LA, and walk away with a finished project without it dragging on and needing to let this take a year to raise the funds. So, it's probably only in the thousands. It's not like tens of thousands. But if you feel the call, then help, great. One way or another, even if you only feel called, no funds are available, be sure to see it when we, get it out there. I think we'll make maybe DVDs and have them for sale, but, I don't know. I'd like to, like I said earlier when we started, once again, I'm like, could we just do it for free and have them available on the internet? We can't just keep doing everything for free because they got to somehow make the funds to pay for the things. But we'll see. I don't know how it's going to be presented. So back to the point behind it, that project I'm mentioning, not to raise funds, I'm mentioning it as an aside, as one thing that's come up. There are some really, really beautiful students who have just said, this has changed my life. Some of them have gone into coaching around intimacy, couples, which includes sexuality, but not exclusively. So what an amazing thing to hear that I've helped people heal so dramatically that they've gone that direction. So understand there are people out there that can help you if that's a struggled area for you, a strained area for you, a constricted area. But when you look, you've got to be careful what you're looking for. If on this planet, and I know all the healers and teachers on the topic that have written books, that have done workshops, I've known them all, met them all, know of them all at the very least, and I don't know that there's more than 1 or 2 males on the planet that I could refer you to, and I'm sorry for that, but I can't. Therefore, be careful if you decide to work with a male. And not only would I not recommend them, some I would recommend against, but I can't, because I'm not going to name names and out people, but there's just a lot of predatory energy and a lot of sexual addiction energy in this area. So there are several women out there that I think are really amazing female teachers. Some have the notoriety, they're popular, they've written books. I think Diana Richardson is a wonderful author, sweet, good energy, and she doesn't really enable the addiction stuff. She really almost only works with couples for that matter because she wants to keep it that clean. But she's a good author and a good teacher. But there are a couple of others, and what I'm going to do is try to make a network more available somewhere in the near future where I could have some place available to say, here's who you could call or work with, whether it's in person or verbal coaching on the phone. But please, whether it's you or other people you know, it's not just people that have been blatantly, majorly abused, even the slightest inhibitions, because it's like, why would there be flowers in your garden that you don't want to have color or scent? It kind of doesn't make sense. I want a gray flower. It kind of doesn't make sense. We are meant to be flowers. We're meant to have an essence, an energy, a brightness, a color, or whatever. And abuses of any kind tend to dim our color, dim our light. So please don't walk away from, neglect, or excuse not pursuing healing, or whatever. It's not healthy. It's not a good idea. And if you know anybody abused, just maybe the most tactful way possible to explain, to move in that direction, even if it's a little bit. You could try a little bit more of a lightweight book on just healing in general, instead of giving them a book on sexuality or sexual abuse. There's a buzzkill, right? Fun for the whole family. Let's all read from our sexual abuse manuals. That's not going to go over well for most people. But you can start with some topic of healing. A book that talks about how healing, the lack of healing affects us. And then sometimes people want to go a little further. It's a very difficult topic, but if you're out there and you know people, it's going to be hard to broach that topic with them and say, hi, I'm your friend and I just think you ought to look at that. It's going to be dangerous. Someone will disown you as friends just because you're bringing that up. So, just consider tactfulness and see what you can do with it. Sometimes I find the best way to deal with that is to talk about it, not to them. So you're sitting with dinner and you're going, God, I just heard this really interesting thing, or I saw this interesting show, or I heard this interview, or whatever. Some way to bring it up. Read this book, read this article, whatever, about human sexuality, knowing that they have some trauma without saying it overtly. Yeah, and it was so interesting. And now I think I've come to understand that even if we have lots of, or a major amount or a minor amount of abuse, I can see how it makes sense to not let those people from the past still own us by us carrying the trauma. And you're saying it about you see, and then they're hearing. And sometimes light bulbs are going up instead of going, what you ought to do. That's too intense for people who have been abused. And there's a reason for that. People of any kind of abuse have felt that when they were abused, they usually weren't sitting around saying, hey, abuse me, please. Usually when you're abused, you're not feeling like you are in control. So when you discuss healing, you have to let a person feel like they're in control. So you can't say you need to do this and that, because the telling them is taken as you're controlling me, even though that's not your intention. That's how they hear it. So instead, you make it an aside, like, wow, I was just reading this and it's amazing and I feel better already. You plant seeds, and they may take the bait, for lack of a better phrase, or they may not. But it's something to consider. Now, I don't pussyfoot around if I'm doing a client, session with a client, and doing a session, and I don't say, I've heard that there's such a thing. I mean, they're hiring me for that, so I can say it straight up. But if you're the family member of or whatever, you might have to be a little more stealthy about bringing things like that up. In any case, I see this topic is there for people. I go to Unity of Sedona, and people to this day, and even again recently, it's come up where people are saying, Michael, there's people that would like you to go back and do one of your lectures on just intimacy, not necessarily even sexuality, but intimacy. Because how I teach is typically very safe and very beautiful. It's almost artistic rather than overt. And I say, gosh, thank you. I really appreciate it. I'll look at it, I'll think about it, I'll consider it. But I do have to, think about it, because it's difficult for some. So it's come up again lately, and I'll think about it maybe once every year or two. That might be something I'm going to do. There's a health conference coming up, I think this October of 2017, and they've asked me to be, they have a lot of speakers, but they asked me to be the keynote speaker, which is quite an honor, of course. And the first thought I had, because of all this conversation lately, is maybe I'll talk about that. So we'll see. I may or may not go that direction there, but as a male, people get very challenged with you talking about sexuality or healing. They just assume you're another perpetrator. And it's sad, but I understand it, because there's just so many cases of that, and such gross quantities of that on this planet. But if I overly let such scared or hurt people and angry people keep me from talking about this or teaching this, then I'm letting them actually harm the world, the planet, because I'm letting their fears and angers control me and keep me from teaching. So some people have said, well, why are you not teaching? Is it because some people are so rude about it, or whatever, attacking sometimes and all that? No, that's a little bit of it. But it's a variety of things. I think that, just to share, if you don't mind, I know there are times where, with teaching this topic, it's hard to teach it because I don't see a lot of support by other teachers. I see abuses by them. So it's hard to stand in this crowd and be called one of them when I don't believe in what they're doing. So I've always kind of stood alone. Then I created a website some time ago where I could say, hey, to any of the people out there that are looking for kind of a safe website, even the practitioners of sacred sexuality, I will pay for the website. It's free. You don't even have to pay to be on the directory of practitioners. There was very little interaction from those people, and those who did, God bless them, because they're the healthy ones, healthy handful in the country and on the planet. But I came to a realization, guys, and you might think about this in your own life. Sometimes we're trying to help people that do not want helped, and that means we then both sink if we let that hurt us. So I had the website, did all these things, and thought, wow, I wrote the books, and those have been, those have sold really well and all that. But the website, I thought, wow, I'm putting this out there for them, and none of them want to participate. They're paying to be in directories elsewhere. They're paying to be in directories that are related to groups or individuals that are actually abusers of the topic or addicts of the topic of sexuality. They're paying to be participants in that. They won't, for free, be in one that's more healthy related. And that was like oh my God, in a moment, it was like wow, eye-opening. I felt sad for it and for them, but also more like bewilderment. But now I don't need to be bewildered anymore, because how long do you want to be bewildered about the same thing? I had to get over the bewilderment and just get to the wow, like, okay, reality check and move forward. So I didn't put as much energy anymore into that website, although we'll keep it, or I don't know if it's still active right now, but we'll be reactivating it just so the education piece is out there, and it may be able to carry the videos that I'm now going to be editing, these films and converting them to videos. So we'll try to get on that as soon as we can, because I know that the folks that work for me don't have really enough to do. So kidding. So they'll get to that as soon as they can. All right, and to just start finishing up and recapping slightly, if the area of sexuality, intimacy, and whatnot is in any way inhibited, take it to the light and bring the light to it, whichever way you want to look at it. Bring light to it. Let light shine on it. Even if it's subtle stuff, have no stone left unturned. Bring it to the light. And it could be that you've had some abuses, forced sex, or just shame, just kind of shame kinds of things. Mom used to say this, boys are all they want is this, or dad used to say that, or, gross kinds of things. If you had brothers, sometimes they're a little bit crude, and, there's that kind of stuff. There's our past life stuff. Just sit and do a little inventory and ask yourself, where do I stand with this topic? And a lot of people go, oh, I'm fine. And it's startling. It's just amazing that when we get to talking, they'll almost be like, well, besides this happening, I'm fine. It's like, wow, how did you leave that out of the first round of the conversation? One exercise I've often done with people is you can have a couple do this, or as a healer, I've sometimes done this with people, but you can take yourself and another person that feels like they have some hurt inside around the topic. And you can kind of, what I call wrestle, and ask them to access their feelings about sexuality. And then you can wrestle. Wrestling meaning kind of a resistance, not literally wrestling, competing, but more just a little writhing together, a little moving and resistance kind of dance, and it brings up tears, it brings up rage, it brings up all kinds of feelings for the person, the partner, the client, whatever it is, but you do things like that. Now, before I go further, I want to just mention, if ever you work with somebody on this, whether it's a friend, and I've had people, gals come to me, they say, Michael, will you work with me? And, my first response has always been no, because I'd rather teach you how to do it. Teach a girlfriend, if you're a girl, a female, I would rather teach a girlfriend of yours how to do that, or your partner how to do that. A lot of people say, well, I don't have a partner that'll do it, or I don't have a partner. Then I'll say, well, how about a girlfriend or whatever? I've had gals who have gone and asked safe males, some cases it's gay males, to come and talk to them about men and sexuality so that they can understand men a bit more. I think that's so beautiful. Some people, it's like, those aren't things you should be discussing outside your home or outside your relationship. And I'm like, bloody hell, you need to talk about it everywhere, if possible. Not literally, but there's a lot of places that you can talk about it, because sometimes if your partner's messed up and that's the only place you can talk about it, you're going to go anywhere, right? My parents were married for, I think, over 50 years, and I don't remember seeing them kiss, but I definitely don't remember them being in any way affectionate, other than maybe a rare couple times. And that's 50 years, So it's kind of a strange thing, because love comes to us in our heart, and it's almost like it's so natural. It's like a natural spark that has come from the heavens above, within ourselves and above. It's like a spark that has sparked off the fire, and it's an ember just sitting there warming our hearts. Affection is just that spark warming and becoming its own fire. Not its own separate from the original fire, but it's own fire. The ember from the original fire of God starts warming our hearts, and then it's like, God, I feel so warm, I'd be happy to hug you, or smile, hi, how are you? To me, that's all the same. It's the affection. How it's shared is about appropriateness. The grocery store clerk, it might just be a smile and how you doing. But for me, I even say things to people like, God, that's a great outfit. If I believe it, I don't make stuff up, but that's a beautiful outfit on you. Or, wow, that's a really cool hairdo. Because that's affection. And I'll say it because I mean it. So, some people, of course, will take it like, he must be hitting on me, and think gross things, but I'm not going to stop doing it just because some people are unhealed and they're going to project their stuff onto me. It's unfortunate that they do it, and I've heard my fair share of stories like that about me or other people, but I'm not going to stop the affection of some form or another. For people to be able to safely share a hug and sometimes even a kiss, I've seen that happen, I've had that happen, and I think it's just beautiful. And sometimes it's meant to be that it goes even further. In a nutshell, though, to not confuse, and just assume when somebody says the word intimate that it means sex. Remember that sexuality is one facet expression of intimacy. Smiling, hugging, complimenting, sex, and a couple other, things could be expressions of intimacy. So consider that. But you'll never really be able to launch into further expressions of intimacy, good expressions, the rays of the sun, called expressions of love, called intimacy, and so on and so on. You can't really get there if you still have stuff that pulls in the rays that are trying to shine out to the world, pulls them in, shames them, beats the hell out of them, darkens them. Then you're just living in hell. You're hurting. Your being is like hell, not just living in it. It's as though you are hell. And it's really, really sad. And you can say, well, but I was abused, I was taken advantage of, and I'm not giving in, I'm going to stay closed. No problem. It's my choice, you're right. I need to be in control. Good for you, you are, that's fine. And I'm not opening up. Okay, I'm just telling you, you die today, you're coming back not only with the darkness you left this world with, but with interest rates on top of it, compounded. Heal while you can. Find a safe way. You can't say, I don't have the partner Michael's saying could be there for me. I don't have the sexual healer. Start with a book, start with a counselor on any issues for that matter. But just learn to breathe and ask yourself, what is this right here? I mean, first of all, bodies are illusions, so I can't make it good or bad, really, spiritually speaking. What I can do, though, is say to myself, the body is what A Course in Miracles calls a messenger or sort of a symbol, okay? It's a communication device. To communicate everything I believe, this body is always communicating something. That's why we can read the faces, the body posture, we can read that because the soul is always using the body to communicate where it's at. So when people slump, the soul is using the body to say, I just don't feel happy. When we have lots of stress lines on our face, that's the soul communicating something. So is a smile, so is taking someone's hand, so is taking their face and, good to see you. How you do it, with shames, with this, that, and the other, is what it's all about. So what do you carry into the body? So think about it. Your body is this holy vessel, but just the vessel. It's not your holiness, but it's the vessel that holds that holiness. And it becomes an expression. So how do you want your vessel to communicate what your soul feels about love? And then love expresses as intimacy, and intimacy can express as sexuality. Do you want it to express? Do you want it to convey shut down and turned off and dark and so on, or the opposite? The opposite is not hypersexual, and that's the unhealthy opposite. We don't want dualities. We want here, right in the middle. Find your center. Help yourself find your own sexual center. And if you say, but I have no partner and so on, you know what? Just try some inventory first. Who am I? What do I believe about sexuality? Well, I believe it should only be this. I believe that. Okay, where'd you get that? Well, it just seems right. Where'd you get that? Well, my mother said, really? What makes you think that mom's the textbook on that topic? So just ask yourself some of these things. Find out where you have erroneous beliefs and be willing to retire them. Not for the extreme opposites, but be willing to retire them to find your center of sexuality. What is your center in the topic? What's right for you? Now, the you I'm talking about, is it the wounded you? No, I don't want you to go by that as your guide. The best I can be today, spiritually and personally and psychologically, what sexuality does that person in me want to share? What sexuality do I want to emanate or bring to the world? So just do your best to be healthy. And remember, the moral is sexuality should always be something with love and respect. If you've had that in the past, then to some degree your soul will feel a trauma, or your body will feel a trauma. You could say, well, I didn't have bad sex. Well, wait. Was there love and respect? If you can't say yes, then there's likely a little bit of an apprehension or a regret there. No problem. You don't have to kill yourself over it, judge yourself over it, beat yourself up over it. Just own it so that we can say, I don't think I'll do that again. Then you've learned enough. Next, make sure that you have anybody you've been with, are with, or will be with. Love and respect. Secondly, safety. Do you feel safe in every way with the person that you're sharing with? Also, can you both be responsible? You're responsible for your feelings. I'm responsible for mine. If I chose to be with you, I chose it. I don't need to be bitching about, you did this, you talked me in. I chose it, and I need to be responsible. If I'm not, it's not a healthy experience. It's not a sacred experience. So it needs to be responsible, and you need to be responsible. Don't do anything with me that you don't feel like you should do. And if you end up doing something you think later you didn't want to do, what do you want me to do? You need to make your decisions right? So we need to be healthy with each other, people in life, and then communicate. Communicate what you're thinking, feeling, where you're at, what you will do, won't do, and let them communicate theirs. It's very important, which is sort of a branching off of responsibility. Last but not least, if you get those pieces together, love and respect, safety, responsibility, communication, then you will be able to trust and surrender with whomever you're with, including yourself and your own pleasuring. Sometimes it's just where you're at. Sometimes that's what you're going to do. I just feel like I'd like to release some energy, or I feel like I want to just feel really beautiful kind of tingles through the body, then that's fine, then just do it. Ultimately, all we ever really want is God. And we're either expressing that or the frustrations of not feeling God. So if you have frustrations of not being with God, you can act them out sexually by just pleasuring and being frustrated and letting out tears and screams into a pillow. Other times I feel so great for feeling connected to God. We can touch and be touched and feel pleasure, but kind of laugh and bliss out inside because of what it means, which is thank you, God, So I hope this brief, sort of a dissertation or bit, of dialogue on this it helped in any way. It's a little different than some of the talks we often do, but it's a talk that sort of needs to be done, and I want to thank those of you who have sort of been approaching me to come back and do something, say something about it. And it's also a way of sharing with you that I mean, it's my way of saying, look, here, by the way, here's what's happening in my life. And that is people, things, incidents, coincidences, synchronicities are coming to say, Michael, can you help anymore? And I see that as God saying, look, Michael, I know you kind of backed off, and thank you for the work you did on it, but would you mind doing a little, extra credit sort of work, helping the world in some way? So those videos that I'll release are going to be a part of that, and whatever else I can do, okay? Thank you guys very much. Remember, there's also CDs and talks about this online, some for free and some are purchasable. And I've also got books on it. One called Sacred Sexuality, a manual for living bliss. And one's just an intro to Tantra and sacred sexuality. And they're both beautiful. The manual, the bigger one, is more workbook related. It's got lots of different, how you can do this. It still teaches, but it also has a lot of exercises. The other one is an easier read. It's softer, something you could share with almost anyone because it's very, very almost poetic or artistic in a way. Anyway, blessings to all of you. Peace be with you, and we'll hope to see you soon. Join us Sunday for a really wonderful talk. Bye-bye.